There you go. All right. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here this morning and spending some time there. Stephanie and Deanna. Perfect. All right. So we're just missing Norma then. Um, Stephanie and or yeah, if you could go ahead and turn on your video really quick, and if everybody can just kind of mute yourself for right now, and then when we're doing our different group activities. So Beth and I are going to lead you through a couple of the new activities. And during that time, what we'll want to do is to have everybody's video on so we can all kind of interact as best as we can here in this virtual environment. And also so we can hear your responses and things like that. So, I'm just really glad that everybody was able to take the time out of your day this morning for this virtual PLT refresher, and also this time here to maybe, I'm sure a lot of you might recognize some faces here. You know, the environmental ed community in South Carolina is not huge, but this is I think also a great chance to do some networking, maybe for a future PD event or something like that. Um, but we'll go. So again, I'm Matt Schnabel, and I'm the PLT coordinator, and I work here at the Forestry Commission. This is my office here behind me. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. So the reason that we were doing all these mandatory sort of refreshers and training this year is because Project Learning Tree has changed so much. I've been working for the agency and been involved with PLT for 6 years. And when I first started 6 years ago, it was still, everything was paper and pencil, everything was printed guide, like it was just very, very basic. And now everything is virtual. You don't even have to go through a PD event anymore to get the guide. You can just buy the guides on Barnes and Nobles. Everything's virtual online. And so there's been so many changes to the program, and it'd been been a long time since South Carolina PLT had done like something that was mandatory. And with the new K-8 guide coming out, we just felt that this was kind of the time to do this, to try and bring everybody together and see who still was available and wanted to be involved, because we had about a list of about 160 facilitators, but of that, maybe only about half were really engaged. So thank you for being part of that half that's engaged. But we're going to have some time here in just a little bit where we're going to get a chance for everybody to introduce themselves when we do our first activity that Beth is going to lead. But if at any time, if you need to like go to the bathroom or whatever, we do have a planned break at 10:10. But if anytime you need to leave, go ahead and take care of your business and everything like that. If anytime you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask. This is going to be like really informal here, or type it in the chat box, and Beth and I will watch that chat box and interject with questions. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get things kind of kicked off with this refresher. So the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about and go back in time to 2020 here. I'm trying to share applications. My goodness. I don't know why my PDF is not. There it is. Okay. All right. So so the first thing I wanted to talk about was the year 2020. So this was a very challenging year, and so I just want to kind of go over a few of the major things that happened in 2020 that led to also more changes in 2021. So in the force community, or in Project Learning Tree, we did not really slow down at all because of COVID. So Beth and I, we really worked hard to retool the program and adapt and change. And so Project Learning Tree did not go away, thanks to your help as well in 2020 and 2021. A lot of other states, their numbers like dipped drastically. But no, we didn't. We kept on moving forward and went to had some virtual options and things like that. But in 2020, one of the major changes is what I mentioned earlier, is that the business model changed for Project Learning Tree. And a couple of reasons for that, that SFI, or national sponsor, said is because, number one, the requirement for going through a PD event was a hurdle for a lot of educators around the country that did not have very strong state programs, that did not offer a lot of opportunities for professional development. And so there is that online option for a lot of the modules, not all of them, but they wanted to remove that barrier for people getting the guides in their hands. And so that was one reason. Another reason, and I kind of talk about the education model in my report here. Another thing is that the amount of revenue that, so Project Learning Tree was losing money like year after year after year. And so it was not sustainable for the program to continue to be self-sufficient. And so a way to generate revenue as well was to kind of put the books on the market to anybody who wanted to buy them. So there's a lot of feelings back and forth, and a lot of discussions and a lot of heated debates about this new business model, including in our own state. However, I do want to let you know, probably a lot of you already know, that in South Carolina, I mean, anybody can go out and buy the guide, but in South Carolina, if you want to get the guide for free, like if you're doing a PD event for like a school district or a school, or for college students, South Carolina does have grant funding to do those trainings for free and get the materials in the hands of that important audience. But we do require that you go through a minimum of a 3-hour PD event. That was another change, is we reduced the number of hours, the minimum number in our state, to 3. It was 5 for the K-8 guide. And the reason we did that in our state is we just kind of realized that 5-hour requirement was also starting to become a barrier to get into these schools and these college classrooms and places like that. So we recommend more than 3. And some audiences, 3 might be enough. Like if you're like in-service veteran teachers, they might just need 3 hours to get familiar with the guide to be able to use it. But if you're working with like college students, or a group that maybe has no experience with Project Learning Tree at all, or they don't have a background in education, then having more than a 3-hour PD event would be probably more appropriate. So it's all about meeting your audience, where they are. So we're trying to be trying to adapt and be flexible. So with Project Learning Tree in our state, we're still doing really well in our state. 2020 was a good year for us. So as you can see, I'll kind of make this a little bit bigger here so you can see this a little bit easier. But in 2020, we did train almost 600 people all together in one of the modules. So that's way above our goal of what is it, Beth? Is it 400? Is that our goal?
We changed it to 500.
We changed it to 500. So yeah, so that's way above our goal of 500. So that was really good. And we had a whole bunch of engaged facilitators. If you look at our list right there, whole bunch of people help out with Project Learning Tree, from our people who lead PD events to other people who do like a teaser workshop, or help us out at a conference or something, or people who serve on our steering committee as well. So those are all different ways that you can be engaged with the PLT program. And then also just to let you know, so thankfully we're still doing very well financially, and that's because of the help of our major contributors, our state implementation committee for SFI. They are one of our major donors, and then International Paper They have given us $5,000 the past couple years, and that has been huge to buy those guides and pay for those, and then as well as a EE360 grant that we kind of get through National PLT. So we're very, very fortunate in our state to still be on very firm financial grounds. And then in 2020, our outstanding educator was Dr. Jessica Daniel from Central Carolina Technical College. And so in 2021, we have with us our Project Learning Tree outstanding educator, Dodie Clark, who is on the call with us. So round of applause to Dodie for her great work that she's done, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But we have not actually, that press release has not gone out, but Dodie was our 2021 outstanding educator. So someone who is using PLT with youth and with the public. That's who we're trying to recognize there. So thank you, Dodie. And so that's kind of, you know, Beth and I, we're going to get into other ways that the Project Learning Tree program has changed, and some updates, and so those were some of the high points from 2020. So are there any questions about anything I've said so far? Does anybody have any questions? Anything in the chat box, Beth? No? Okay.
No.
All right. Well, very good. All right. Well, got a thumbs up there. So Beth, I'll hand it over to you for our first activity then.
Okay, looks like just in time. Looks like Norma Rockwell is on now. So
very good.
All right. Okay, so we're going to jump right into our first activity, and we'll be doing an icebreaker. It's from the activity Global Goods in your book. You don't have to open your book yet. We'll look at that in just a minute. But hopefully you all got Matt's email encouraging you to bring your favorite renewable natural resource item that you have in your home or office or wherever you are today. Because we're all going to go, and if not, grab something real quick. So again, you know, a renewable natural resource is something that can be replenished. So you think of like trees and animals we can grow again, whereas non-renewable is finite. So you think about a lot of like our fossil fuels, coal and oil and things like that. They cannot be replenished naturally. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to each introduce ourselves. I want you to tell me your name, what you do. Share with us when you were trained in Project Learning Tree and who you were trained by. So this is always interesting. We have a lot of like newer facilitators, but we have plenty of people that were trained, you know, 10, 20 years ago. So it's always kind of interesting to hear that from you guys. And then I want you to share very quickly your item. Just show it on the screen if you can, or point your camera to it if it's a bigger item. But just to kind of keep us on schedule, just take like 30 seconds to a minute. So we'll go really quickly through this. Okay, are we sharing? Sometimes Matt and I don't share, so let's see. I'll just start right here. So my name is Beth Foley. I'm the assistant PLT coordinator for South Carolina. I was trained in 2017 when I started the job here, and I went to Georgia actually. We were not doing a triple educator training here yet, so I went over to Georgia to the Charlie Elliott Wildlife Center. So I was trained by the coordinators there. And one of my favorite renewable natural resource items I have in my office is this really cool like wooden flower. So a woodworker made this down on like a art in the park thing downtown Columbia, and this is all wood, except for we've got a non-renewable resource there, plastic. I'm not actually sure exactly what type of wood this is, but super cool. All right, Matt, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. All right, so my name's Matt Schnabel, and I also got trained as a facilitator at the Charlie Elliott Wildlife Center in Georgia. When I was a teacher at White Knoll High School, when I was helping out with the teachers tour. Maybe some of you have even been on the South Carolina Forestry Teachers Tour. but I was there helping Jerry Shrum with it. And so I needed to be a facilitator in order to be the adjunct on that. So I went there. And so that was like 2000 and I don't know, 11, something like that, 2012. I can't remember now, but I have I don't know, maybe some of you might recognize. Does anybody know there's blue paint on it? Anybody know what this is? I know Liz is like, she's like Biltmore stick. Yeah. So this is a forester's tool. Really, it's made out of wood with metal tips, but we use these all the time to estimate the volume in a stand of timber. So we use this as a teaching tool. It's very, very inexpensive. Well, this is an expensive one, but we make them out of cheap pieces of wood from Lowe's that we use with our high school students whenever we do programs in timber cruising. So, all right. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Kelly, I have you next.
Okay, I'm Kelly Costner. I am a teacher educator at Winthrop University, and I was first trained in Project WET as an educator, and then facilitator training was I think it was the first triple facilitator training, which was, I believe, 2017, and Matt and Beth were there. So my item is not very interesting, but it's exciting. It's packaging. So we've all gone to doing so much ordering and having things come to the house. And I've been impressed that more and more of the packaging that we have is made from sustainable materials. And in fact, this was a video camera, the one that I'm using right now, and it came completely packaged in all paper. There wasn't a single piece of plastic anywhere in the whole package, and that I was really impressed by that.
Very cool. Yeah, that's pretty reassuring. All right. Thank you, Kelly. Renee, I have you next up on my screen. And you'll have to just tell us about your items since you're not able to turn on your video. Here we go. Can you hear us, Renee?
Hey, we'll skip.
We'll skip Renee. We'll come back to you. All right.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, there we go.
I was going to show you the, if I can figure, maybe you should go on to the next person so I can get this thing loaded up. I've got a picture of it on my computer that I can show you.
Okay, we'll come back to you then. All right,
Okay.
Jess, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Jess Sedeo. I am the Recycling Coordinator and Water Quality Education and Outreach Coordinator for Spartanburg County. I am a North Carolina Certified Environmental Educator, and I think I completed that in 2012, so I was trained in PLT and trained as a facilitator sometime between 2008 and 2012. I just don't remember. It was in North Carolina at some point in time. My item is actually pretty new. I just got back from a trip to Washington State, and I brought my little boy back a wooden train because he keeps asking me to play with this little Christmas train that doesn't work, and figured he might like this. He hated it. But it's traditional and handmade.
Well, very cool. Yes, I love that. It's a beautiful piece right there. All right, thank you, Jess. All right, Cynthia, I have you next.
Okay, I have one I can demonstrate by sound. We went to the Transportation Museum not long ago, and I am Cynthia Sproutley. I work here in York County. Normally, I'm in EE full-time, but right now I'm just doing informal education and working other places. But I have a train whistle. I don't know if you can see it there. So I'll demonstrate it. Hold your ears. It's not too loud, but so my kids grew up listening to trains. We used to live near railroads, and this is just a favorite because it reminds me of their childhood.
Oh, yeah, very cool classic wooden train whistle. And my brother is a railroad engineer, so I always love hearing the sounds of trains too. Reminds me of him. All right, thank you, Cynthia. Renee, are you sharing your screen right now?
I'm trying to, but it went sideways on me. I don't know. Does anybody know how to turn a picture vertically?
We can turn our heads.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
You go
just
ahead,
doing this,
Renee.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I was starting trying to do black soldier fly house. Sorry. I was building a black soldier fly larva house. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, black soldier fly larvae are wonderful processors. I have a farm, and when we harvest animals in particular, we need some way to process the waste from that harvest. But they only live and are functional when it's 65 degrees or above. So I wanted to build a house where we could use them year round, and found a place that was getting rid of wooden pallets for free. And so we had a framed in little shed that I covered with the pallet wood. And now we're building a rather unique heated, because it's going to be heated with compost, house for our black soldier fly larvae so that they can function year round.
Very, very interesting. I've never seen a structure like that before. And
Yeah,
Renee,
well,
do you
it's
want
kind of strange looking from that angle, but
and Renee, share with us what you do too, and when you were trained.
well, I'm a consultant on a lot of different projects. I do, as I said, I am a farmer, but also I help start projects in schools and with community groups here in the United States and in Africa primarily, with agriculture and natural resources,
Okay.
and do a few other things.
Yeah. All right. And do you remember when you were trained?
1995.
Right. Was that Jerry Shrum back then, or was that before Jerry?
And that was Jerry. I think it was maybe his second year.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's cool. Okay. Thank you very much, Renee.
Mhm.
I'm a little out of order now with you, Sharon. I think I see Dawn up next.
All right. I'm Dawn Stuckey, and I am the 4-H agent for Colleton and Hampton counties. And I was trained in 1996 with Jerry. And I was looking over on my bookshelf. I did the teacher's tour in 2009. So I've been around a lot longer than some of you've been alive, I think. But my object is the longleaf pine cone, because some of you recognized my last name from before. My husband and my father-in-law are both foresters, and the smell of the paper mill in our house equates to money. So that is the smell of money. So in our house and in our community, trees, we know, are the largest cash crop, the largest agricultural crop in both of my counties. So we put a lot of emphasis on growing the best and the biggest. And also the longleaf, because that was the native species in our area, and that's what the Longleaf Alliance is trying to get back in some of the native places and push out the longleaf, which is what most of the tree farms here are.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much, Dawn. A little history lesson there, and very connected with the forestry community. Renee, do you mind stop sharing your screen so we can see everybody in gallery mode again?
Yeah, if somebody knows how to do it, I don't know this app. I never use it, so
yeah, if you hover near the top of the screen, a little menu should like appear, and it'll say stop sharing.
Yeah, I wish it did. But I'm not finding that. The one that comes up just says share. It doesn't say stop sharing.
If
Maybe
you
click on that share and then see what happens.
Click that again. There should be a stop sharing option.
Nope. Share content, share web browser, share my meeting, but it doesn't have any.
Maybe if I share something, I'll take over controls and then I'll stop it.
Yeah.
There we go. Stop sharing.
Nope.
Oh, nope.
Well, I'll do it when I figure it out.
Okay. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. And just to make sure again that we stay on track, just share just 30 seconds to a minute. So just real quick. All right, Norma Rockwell, I have you next. We didn't do a mic check with you, so you'll have to make sure to unmute your mic, Norma.
That always helps, doesn't it?
Yep, we see you now too.
I'm Norma Rockwell. I live in Barnwell County. I am a retired high school, middle school teacher. I retired from teaching STEM, but it's still my passion. I recently got a new job. I am the site manager, activities director for a senior center here. So I'm able to share what I've learned here to the seniors. I was trained by Jerry back in probably 2010. And my item, speaking of which, is shredded. I think it's like cardboard, thin cardboard. And what I liked about this, I saved it because we're making scarecrows for Barnwell County's scarecrow activity or contest. And that's going to be part of their costume, like maybe hair. That's it.
All right, very cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, thank you, Norma. All right, let's see. Deanna Taylor, I have you next.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Deanna Taylor, and I am in Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia area, and I am a consultant in education, so I do a little bit of everything. I was trained in PLT, I think it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. I was at the State Department, and I served on the steering committee first, and then I went through facilitator training. And my item is a large Egyptian natural care loofah. So tomorrow is my birthday, and I wanted some spa treatment. So I bought some natural loofahs and got some natural soaps and stuff. And so this is actually, I did a little research, and I didn't know they came from plants. So apparently these natural loofahs come from a plant. So the plant is renewable. And there we go. And actually one of the seeds dried out and just fell out too. So,
very cool. I've never seen that before. It's interesting. That's a big loofah too. And happy early birthday.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Dodie, I have you next.
Hey, I'm Dodie Clark. I'm in Anderson, South Carolina. I work in the Youth Services Department of the main Anderson County Library, where I bring lots of PLT. I was trained in Project Learning Tree as an educator and during the master's program in elementary ed at Anderson University in 2012. 2015, I went on the teacher's tour. 2017, I was trained as a facilitator and a triple facilitator, I think at Roper Mountain. My favorite renewable resource is going to be, it's a persimmon. My husband's a woodworker, Whatnot Woodworks, and he made a cell phone resonator. So I love just to pop my cell phone in here and listen to music, and it naturally just resonates the music. So there it is.
That is so cool.
That's super cool.
Huh. Yeah, I've never seen that before. What type of wood is it?
It's persimmon. So we live on 36 acres. So any wood that comes down or whatever, we use it for anything from persimmon to cherry to pine. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. We're all gonna want one of those now. All right. Let's see. Thank you, Dodie. And we've got Lisa up next.
Okay. So my name is Lisa Pike, and I'm in Florence, South Carolina at Francis Marion University. I teach biology and environmental science, and I will also do PLT workshops with our pre-service teachers. I don't remember the year that I was trained, but it was one of the last couple years Jerry Shrum was there, and he wasn't able to do the workshop, so we went up to North Carolina with Renee
Stranad. Yeah.
Okay, her name's a hard one. And so we were trained up there, which was great. My item This is a computer bag that I got from a friend for Christmas, and it's from a company called Made with a Purpose. And I think the woman who started the company, her mom is a local person, so we've got them in our stores around Florence. But it's made out of recycled saris. She's an Indian woman. She was trying to figure out what to do with the hundreds of saris that her mom had, and she ended up recycling them into and making these gorgeous bags. And now she's actually opened up a facility in India where she can employ women in particular who might not have other opportunities for education or employment, and they can make money. And she'll travel around and just hundreds of thousands of saris. She collects them, brings them to the factory, and they turn them into these gorgeous bags. So
oh, that's really cool. Yeah, repurposed items with a purpose.
Exactly, and a little social justice in there too.
Yeah, very cool. All right, well, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I have Liz up next.
Can you hear me, y'all?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Liz Bourgeois. I am a retired forester, and I was trained before many of you were born back in 1987 in Georgia. And my item is a book because I'm in the book club, and I've made a lot of new friends in this book club. So that's my story.
Very cool. Great resource there. We love our books. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. We've got Stephanie up next.
Hi, I'm in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and I am in the middle of career switching at the moment. I just finished training to become a full stack engineer. I have with me a pine cone on a little piece of wood. I was trained as a educator with Project Learning Tree in 2016 while I was still in college, and I actually helped make this and many others working at my school forest. And we did a 5K race every year. So we would just collect all kinds of pine cones. And for the first place ones, we made sure we got longleaf pine cones. So those ones were actually bigger. So we cleaned these all off, put them in polyurethane ourselves, and put them on these little plaques. And this is just a leftover one that stays on my desk, but very renewable. They were the rewards at the end of the 5K race, and they're still doing that.
Awesome. That's a cool little trophy there. I haven't seen that before either. All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Taylor, I have you up next. If you're there, Taylor, I see a green screen. Maybe we'll come back to Taylor. Okay, Thea, I've got you next.
Hey, so I'm Theo Hagan. I'm up at Clemson University in the Department of Forestry and Environmental Conservation, and I teach in the fall environmental ed and in the spring restoration ecology, as well as some other seminars and stuff. I was trained in Project Learning Tree. I don't know the year, but it was down in Florida through the University of Florida, and actually at their university forest, but I don't really remember the year, sometime when I was in graduate school. And my item is this little notebook made of recycled paper. So I chose this because obviously renewable, and it's actually global because it came from a women's group that I worked at with when I was in the Peace Corps in Ecuador. So they made these recycled handicrafts, and we created a website so that they could sell them to people in the US.
That's it. Cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Thea. And I see Taylor is back now. So Taylor, if you want to go next.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I work at Lynch's River County Park in Florence, South Carolina. I was started in 2020 getting trained in Project Learning Tree, 2019, and just a minute. My item is our animal logbook that we have to keep up with all of the maintenance and feedings and whatnot for all of the animals that we have in our nature center.
Very cool. And our animals are renewable resources too, right? All right, thank you, Taylor. And then last but not least, Michelle Evans.
Hi, all. Michelle Evans. I wish I could remember when I was trained. I think I had a North Carolina PLT one at one point, but then I did the triple facilitator one with Matt and Beth. So whatever year that was that you started that, it was that summer. 2017, you said? 2016, 17, 17?
Yeah. The Harbison one, right?
And yeah, at the forest there.
I think
And we had that, the couple from Project Project Wild and another group from Project Wet. So, but yeah, I've shifted careers since I first started doing the trainings. I'm now executive director at Catawba Valley Land Trust in Lancaster, South Carolina, and I live in Fort Mill. And I'm currently in Pawleys Island right now because my birthday was Saturday. So I decided I was going to jump to the beach on Sunday and spend a day all to myself yesterday. So before I check out, I'm doing this training and then I'm going to have to bolt as soon as we're done and get out of the room. But I got a little extra time to stay here. But mine is a book that I brought, and it's funny because I'm also in a book club. So this is the one for this month, and I brought it down to sit on the beach and to read because I do still like sometimes having the tangible aspect in my hand, and so with paper as a renewable one resource.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Happy belated birthday. And that's a good book. I've read that book. It was really interesting to hear his background.
Yes.
Very, very different culture there. Okay, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for all sharing items, and some of you that are even traveling, you made it work. So all really great renewable natural resources. Some of them were totally renewable. Some of them had other items in them, right? Like mine, for example, had plastic in it, which is non-renewable. I know Matt's Biltmore stick has a little metal tip to it. Different things. So sometimes even our renewable natural resources, even if you think about all the different elements and pieces, do have non-renewable resources in them too. So this comes from the activity Global Goods. So if you want to open up your guide and turn to page 272, you'll see this is activity that's geared towards grades 6 through 8. And Matt's going to do a really in-depth hike through the guide and kind of show you how it's all laid out and organized. But you'll notice that this is our activities are now geared towards specific grade levels, but most of our activities do have a grade level variation. So you'll see this activity is all about students kind of learning about natural resources and how they're really dependent on them in day-to-day life. So they actually choose their own renewable, or I guess it could be non-renewable too, natural resources that they are going to track and trace the life cycle of. So if you look on page 273, PLT used an example of a pencil here. And so they actually will create like a life cycle diagram of their item, and they're going to include all of like the processes and materials involved in producing, distributing, and disposing of this item. So they're really going to answer questions like, where did these materials come from? They can create a map of all the different materials. Like in a pencil, it's not all renewable. You've got your graphite and the tip of the pencil, not lead, but graphite, and petroleum and everything else that's in the pencil. So, you know, how were these resources transported? What energy was needed to extract, process, manufacture, and distribute these resources? So they're learning about renewable and non-renewable energy too. And really just learning how important our natural resources are. Like pretty much every product is all dependent on natural resources. And then learning about things like globalization too, and how we're also interdependent on other countries for our resources and goods. So really great activity geared towards middle school students. Definitely encourage you to check it out and look at it more in depth. But I want to share with you guys really quick, let me share my screen, a worksheet that you can use. Can everybody see this? So Matt shared out the K-8 Educator Toolkit, and this is a resource that National PLT came up with for facilitators, and it gives you lots of great ideas of worksheets and activities and kind of new agenda that you can use for educator workshops. I'll go through this in a little more detail later. But if you turn to this page, which I believe is page 17 in the document, you kind of have to scroll all the way down, or you can just look at the screen here. But I was just going to kind of quickly work through this with you, because this is a really great resource. This is really intended to be like an in-the-door activity for your workshops. So before you even get started, you know, a lot of times we have participants that show up really early to our trainings. I know sometimes we'll have them show up as soon as we get there to set up. So this is an activity where you can give them to work on while they're sitting, waiting for the workshop to start. And it introduces them to two important tools in the guide, the table of contents and the at-a-glance index. And it really kind of just introduces them to PLT too, and shows some of the activities that PLT has to offer. So if you flip to the front of your book to page 1 and just quickly look at the table of contents. And then what you would do is you would select an activity for them to research. So let's use global goods as our activity to kind of look through for this worksheet. And so look at the table of the contents. Where do you find global goods? You guys can just, if someone wants to unmute, just let me know. Where do you find it in the layout of the activities?
It's in the grade 6 through 8 band.
Yep. So, and you said that we said that was on page 272. So, so you'll see that all the activities are now organized by grade level bands. So we've got K to 2, which is in red. It's all color coded. 3 to 5 is all green, and then 6 to 8 is all blue. So that the activity had the blue bar across the top. So this is a middle school book activity. And within those grade level bands, you'll notice that the activities are organized by alphabetically. So we no longer have activity numbers like we did before. I think PLT felt that it was a little confusing and kind of hard to remember those activity numbers and what the names were for them. So they've really kind of restructured and organized the guide. But like I mentioned, just because an activity might be geared towards K to 2 doesn't mean it can only be used with K to 2. PLT did a really great job of having variations and even having separate student pages for these variations for older or younger students. So this kind of gives you an idea of all the activities that PLT has to offer and how they're organized, and then of course shows the appendices and the indices that are in the back. So if you look at the bottom and the indices, the at-a-glance index is on page 420. So let's flip back to that really quick. So this is like, when you look at it, it's a bit of an intimidating kind of table. It is a lot of symbols, a lot of colors, a lot of words, but when you really break it down, it's super, super helpful when you're planning and choosing activities based on what context you're in. So again, let's look at the global goods activity. So look at the top. You'll see all of our activities are again organized by grade level band and by color. So K to 2 is red, 3 to 5 is green, 6 to 8 is blue. So let's look on back, and we had said that global goods, remember, is alphabetically organized. It's on page 272, so you can see the page numbers are listed there. So did everybody find that? So it's on the top of page 421. And so if we follow this down, you'll see the next row below the page numbers is the grade level variation. So you'll see there's different symbols based on what grade level there's a variation for. So most of the activities do have grade level variations. This one, however, does not. And then if you go down to the next block of rows, this is the subject matter. So if you look at, I guess I'm working through this section here to not point that out, but our grade span is 6 to 8. There's no grade level variation. There are subjects right here. So science, English language arts, and arts and social studies are met with this. So still hits a good number of subjects there. If you go on down to the next row, I'm having to put a piece of paper up so I can follow this easier. Then there are icons. So Matt will go into more detail about what these icons are. This is new to the guide, but kind of cool, cool new icons. Things like activities that are great for the outdoors, things that work really well for non-formal. This one specifically has some good STEM skills that are in it. And then if you go down to the next one, there's actually a breakdown of STEM skills, 10 different STEM skills. So this shows that it meets data analysis, investigation, and organization. So PLT did a great job of incorporating STEM into this new guide. And then finally, at the bottom, you'll see the differentiated instruction techniques. So that lists out all the different ones, like hands-on learning, non-linguistic, and then personal connections there. So again, this activity really has them kind of investigate an activity, learn about everything that's incorporated into it, but also get a feel of how the book is organized and how to quickly find and access those activities. So again, this is a really great in-the-door activity. I did a workshop in August and I used this. It was a very small group, but I think a few people worked on it that got there a bit early. So it was kind of nice just to have something for them to do too, instead of just kind of sitting there and waiting. So are there any questions about the Global Good activity or that worksheet that I just shared with you? I'll show you when I go through the facilitator webpage, I'll show you where to find this document. So if you ever need it in future reference, you can easily find that. Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to Matt, and Matt will do a hike through the guide for us.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Beth. Yeah, so there was one comment in the chat box. I do want, it brought something to mind that was a change in 2020 or maybe even 2019, but maybe I'm not sure if all the facilitators are aware. So historically, we've allowed and done free PD events. We don't call them workshops anymore. You know, professional development events. It's old habits are hard to break. And so for only like in-service teachers, if it's requested through a school or a school district. However, we have now opened that up to preschools too. So if it's a preschool and those teachers, they have to be registered with SC Endeavors, which is a program of DHEC, and it's a way for preschool teachers to get their professional development. The early childhood curriculum that PLT has is a registered SC Endeavors course. So teachers going through early childhood training can get those 3 hours of renewal credits. So Norma mentioned first steps in her chat. And so if, say, you were able to work through your county first steps organization or Head Start or, you know, something, an organizing body for early childhood, that could count. That could count as your school district as well. Early childhood is a really tough thing to wrap your head around. It's not as orderly and easily understood as like typical K-12 education, because there's a lot of different organizations doing different things. But I just want to make you all aware of that. So thanks, Norma, for bringing that to my attention. Okay, all right, well, we'll go ahead now and we're going to do a hike through the guide, and I'm going to use a presentation to kind of go through some of the highlights of the new guide. Now, maybe some of you have had time to already kind of look through this. Others of you, I'm sure, are super busy, and this came in the mail, and you haven't had a chance to even crack it open until right now, and that's fine too. I totally understand. So as we're flipping through this, you can go ahead if you want to turn off your camera and during this presentation here. And if you, while I'm kind of going through the presentation, you could just be flipping through your book and looking at the things that I'm talking about. And if anybody, did anybody not get their guide in the mail? Because we mailed them all out last week. If you did not, please put it in the chat box and we can figure where that is. So let me go ahead and I'm going to share my presentation with you. Okay. Show. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. My whole presentation there. Oh. Beth, can you hear me? Yep. Okay. All right. Lisa Pike says I get a thumbs up. Okay. All right. Good. Something just went weird. I have it on both of my monitors now. All right. So I'm going to kind of go through this. Beth has already kind of touched on a few of the things already, but the new K-8 guide, this is going to be our new kind of bread and butter for the PLT program. It's the most requested guide that we have for PD events. It covers the most amount of grade bands, so it kind of makes sense why it's the most requested. All right, so that's us. Hello. All right, so we're really trying to, at the beginning of your PD events, it would be great. The National PLT is really encouraging outcome-based agendas and really setting those objectives for what the participants are going to be, what they're going to be doing and what they're going to be learning throughout the day. So I encourage you to, maybe you can do it together with the group, set goals, set outcomes at the beginning of your PD event. Or you can set them for the group. But the outcome for this presentation here is to introduce and describe the new guide right here. All right, so here are the top 10 changes. So new design, grade level organization, 50 activities instead of 96, more outdoor learning, this icon approach, new academic standards connections, more focus on our forests, all these career connections you might have noticed, and units of instruction. And then a lot of these new resources, instead of being printed in the guide, now there's a lot more stuff that's online as well.
Hey, Matt,
Right, so,
are you
yeah.
able to change to the presenter view so we're not seeing your next slide?
Display settings. What do you see now?
There you go. That's better.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the table of contents, Beth kind of already talked about that. One thing I always mention to folks is the copyright rules. We always encourage people not to just photocopy the entire guide or scan it and share it. So that's always a good point in your PD event as a facilitator, is to tell people, hey, this is copyright protected. So encourage them to attend a PD event to get the guide for free, or they can buy it themselves. All right. So just want to let you know that, this new guide does have a South Carolina connection. They did correct this in the printing of the guide. So Beth Felder at Calhoun Academy, she did pilot one of the new activities, and I went down there with her and helped her lead it with her students. It does say it's not DC, they fixed it. It is SC when they printed it. And let me double check that. Beth Felder, yep, in the printed guide it does say SC. So in the beginning of the book, there's that information. The beginning of the book, it just has your kind of your typical overview of everything about the guide with the grade bands, has a little section there about the icons that I'm going to mention later. And then just like the old pre-K to 8 guide on pages 8 and 9, if you want to flip to there, it gives you a breakdown of what the layout of an activity is. So nothing much has changed except for the icons. That's kind of something that's new. What's also kind of new, and I'll get to it later, are the things about forest facts and then taking it outside. That's new. And we'll get into some of those other new things as well. But just to make you aware of that, this is a great page to point out during your PD events, page 8 and 9. All right. So Beth already mentioned this, and I'm sure you noticed that it's the activities are kind of put into grade bands, and with the grade level variations that are there for some, but not all of the activities. So even though it's less activities, but there's so many variations and extensions to to the new activities, I actually feel that it's just as much information and lessons and everything as the old guide. It's just a little bit cleaner and a little bit more, a little bit more to the point in this new guide. All right. So in this new guide, let me move this window here. It's divided by, it's color coded, as you've noticed. There's many variations, as you can kind of see there for grades 3 to 5. Any of those activities that can have a variation going down have the red icon. Any that are going up have the blue icon. And Beth, I can't see the chat box, so if anytime anybody has a question, just interrupt me.
Okay, no questions.
Okay. Come on. My computer's frozen here. There we go. Okay. All right. Is what Beth mentioned earlier. There's no more activity numbers. They did a bunch of research and they kind of found out that the numbers just kind of got in the way, made things a little bit more confusing because were people talking about the page number or the activity number or the activity name. So they just did away with the activity number and just alphabetized everything. And then early is what we said earlier, 2/3 of the activities offer variations. So you can kind of see here how many activities there are for each grade band. All right, and then this right here, this is kind of a breakdown of the old guide versus the new guide. So some of the activities were combined. So here are the old activity numbers over here. And then here's the new activity name. So some of them, they kind of changed the name a little bit when they did the revision. Some of the activities, they kept the exact same name. And then some of them were combos. And then we have 5 brand new activities that are there in orange. So a lot of your, you'll notice that most of a lot of your old favorites are still there in the new guide. All right, so the activity layout, Beth we kind of went through this earlier. Nothing much has changed in the activity layout from the old guide, except for the icons I'll talk about in just a second. And then the force facts and a few other little changes. So there's the grade level indicator in the upper left-hand corner, your sidebar right there, icons, STEM skills, force facts, and then anytime that there is a part of the procedure that gets into a different way of teaching to reach those different learners, that is the icon with the little arrow for ideas for differentiated instruction right there. Okay, and then this right here, so every single activity can be done outside. So this is the little box here that will give you the teacher ideas on how to do that. And then there's the variations. All right, and then every single activity has this kind of academic standards box that gets into the, now these are the NGSS standards, and then the Common Core, ELA, and math. And if you are tied into what South Carolina has done with its standards, you'll know that our science standards and our ELA, and I'm not sure about the social studies so much. I'm not an expert on that. I didn't teach social studies, but our standards align very similar with the national standards. Our new science standards are NGSS inspired. So if you've taken a look at the new science standards, you'll notice a lot of similarities. So those correlations to the national standards already exist. They're posted online. And I'll get into that a little bit more as well. Also, what's really cool is that all the new activities, they have different student pages based upon the grade level variations. So, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then every single student page has a little blurb here about a green job. So it's kind of cool right there. And the careers are supposed to be kind of like grade level appropriate. So the colored pencil, this icon means grades 3 to 5. And so the career there is supposed to be like a career that maybe a 3rd through 5th grader could kind of understand and wrap their brain around. So as what I mentioned earlier, the K to 2 student pages are crayons, 3 to 5 colored pencil, and 6 to 8 the regular pencil right there. And so what's cool about that is they're also kind of developmentally appropriately designed as well, which I think is really neat. So the old guide didn't really have that. All right. So there you go, what I mentioned earlier with the icon up there, and then the green jobs. All right, now the icon approach. Every in the sidebar of every activity has these different icons, and it'll let the educator know how appropriate that activity is for that either setting or if it has that skill. So outdoors means that activity needs to really have an outdoor environment to do the activity. The urban, that means that with the buildings right there, that means that activity is appropriate and can be easily done in an urban environment. A person hiking, that icon means that it's very appropriate for a non-formal education setting. However, all of these activities that have as non-formal, it can definitely be used in the classroom. It's just meaning that, this is an activity that's definitely you can easily do like at a camp or at a state park or, wherever that non-formal setting might be. And then the STEM means that is a STEM exemplar, meaning that activity reaches all of those skills, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, all those areas. So that's what that means. And then long-term. So if it takes more than 2 periods of instruction, has that symbol. So, so that's kind of cool. That, makes it a little bit easier to categorize the activities. So like get outside, you can kind of see there, that would be, you need an outdoor environment. It's a STEM exemplar, but it's also very appropriate to do in an urban environment. And then trees as habitats has 4. So, so it's I kind of like that new icon approach. And then trees for many reasons, it's actually it actually doesn't have any. So it's kind of just, I guess, like a general activity. All right, so Beth kind of already went over the at-a-glance index on page 420. This index here, probably teachers will probably be using some of the most right there. So, so yeah, Beth already kind of went over that. All right, another change about this new guide is that 40% of the activities, so 20 of them, require an outdoor learning environment. That's what that icon meant. But 100% of the activities can be done in the outdoors, what I mentioned earlier. So there are special instructions to the teachers of how, what they can do to take that learning outside. So that was really, really important when they did this revision, is that they wanted to really encourage teachers, to get their kids outside. I mean, think about all the health benefits that are associated with being in the outdoors, health and mental and physical. So, so that's really a great addition. And then in Appendix B, it's also great to point out to the teachers, tips for teaching outdoors, because a lot of teachers are really scared to take their students outdoors. They're afraid that there's going to be snakes and wasps underneath, behind every tree and underneath every rock. And so this kind of gives the teacher maybe some guidance and some instructions that's right there in your guide of how they can safely do outdoor activities. So I want to point that out. All right, so I mentioned to you earlier that the guide is already correlated to the national standards. And we have the science standards posted already, thanks to Rosemary Wicker. Dr. Wicker did all the correlations to the new 2021 science standards. And we are currently, it's a long story, I'm not going to get into it, but we are soon to be working and will have done by the end of the year the South Carolina ELA math and social studies standards as well, completed and posted for the new K-8 guide. So someone will be imminently working on those correlations. All right, so the NGSS correlations, they have these very detailed, pages. They're not in the book, they're on the website, plt.org/my-K-8 guide, and it's underneath the resources for PLT lessons link. And in here, if a teacher is really using NGSS as a guide for their instruction, they have these really detailed pages here for every activity that kind of really lay out the SCPs, the DCIs, and the cross-cutting concepts for each one of the PLT activities. And so again, it goes really well with our South Carolina science standards as well. We'll show you where to find those. All right, so more force forward. So of course, with SFI being our national sponsor, they wanted more focus to be on force, so they added a lot of these force facts to every activity, because a lot of the people leading the activities might not have a background in forestry or know very much about the environment. But the guide in the background section, and in, it provides everything a teacher needs to know in order to lead the lesson, is right there in the guide. But this is kind of cool that they added these little blurbs for every activity as well. All right, and then I mentioned to you before the career connections, the little career corner for every single activity that are on the student pages. So that's really neat. All right, and then another brand new thing, units of instruction. So in the old guide, they're called storylines. So if a teacher wanted to teach it's like a group of activities that have a theme to them. So this is kind of where you would find the themes, and they have them for each of the grade bands. So for example, in Appendix H in your book, if you turn to that, for the first example, there's benefits of trees. So the storyline is trees benefit humans in a variety of ways. So these 4 activities, closer you look, adopt a tree, trees as habitats, and we all need trees, are all very closely related and all kind of meet that storyline right there. So this is something that the old guide had, but it's also in the new guide as well. So they also call them units of instruction. So kind of be sure, it's also great to point this out during your PD events. All right, and so I'll go back. So this is what's in the book right here, just these very, very, very brief units of instruction. See where it just lists the name of the activity and then the storyline and the concepts there. But if you go online to the My K-8 guide, then it gets into, it's much more detailed here. So it has description on the scope and sequence, the connecting concepts, and then the storyline, and it basically kind of tells the teacher, gives them a little bit more detailed instruction on how to implement that unit of instruction for their students. So we're going to show you that website here later on, where you can, and how to find these units of instruction. And then last, so the glossary, it's not in the book anymore. This is also something that can be found online at this website. All right, so there's a few other things, just going to mention other appendices. Appendix K has ideas for this page here on how to make a scientific argument. planning investigation. So there's this resource that teachers can use, in coordination with using the PLT activities right here. Kind of think of like the scientific method. That's the way that I learned it back in elementary and junior high school. So it's kind of similar to that. And then the assessment rubric. So there's also that, which is Appendix M as well. And then this right here, when I was a teacher, and I did not have any standards for teaching environmental studies. And so I would, based upon my topic that we're teaching, and I actually used the Envirothon as my guide when I was choosing what to teach during my environmental studies class, because I was secretly getting my students ready to go to the Envirothon. I would use the topic index all the time to find activities in my PLT guides that I had in order to teach that topic. So definitely point out the topic index there. And then also there's the alphabetical index there at the front. Okay, all right, so those were the top 10 changes that I just went over. So are there any questions before we take a break here? Sorry, I went over a little bit. No? Okay, all right. Well, let's go ahead, everybody, and let's take a break. Let's try and be back at 10:20 if we can, and with everybody back online at 10:20. So it's 10:14 right now. All right. Thanks for the thumbs up, Deanna. And Lisa. You're my two favorites. You get brunch.
I like these emoticons.
Hey, Beth. Hey, all right. Here, I'll just hang up the phone. Can Beth, are you? I don't know if we talked about this. Are you going to show them the new K-8 guide website, or is I going to show them that?
Yeah, I was just thinking that we did not include that in the schedule. So if you
Yeah.
want, I can show them real quick and then show them the facilitators webpage.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. And I have 1020, so
Yeah.
is everybody back? It's hard to know with everybody's video off. Give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. Or you can do the emoticon. There we go. All right. Got a few people back. Okay. So y'all may have heard, but we forgot to include in the agenda the there's actually a separate web page for all of the online K-8 resources. So I'll just show that to you real quick. And then I'm also going to show you our new facilitators web page that we created. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So to get to the K-8 website, you go to it like you did before to get to like your student pages and everything. So it's under resources and then resources for PLT lessons. Or when you sign into your account, you have a little quick link over here, access resources for PLT lessons. A lot of times it prompts you to log in again. You have to click that login button. But you'll see all of the different curriculums listed here. But this one's the one that it's, because it's so special and new, it has its own website. So that's a pretty easy URL to remember too, if you just want to type that in directly, my K-8 guide. And so this is where you will still come to find all of your student pages. So again, organized by grade level band. Let's go to global good since that was our icebreaker activity. So if you click on more resources, then there are your student pages that you can still download. So if you have any like grade level variation student pages, those will also be listed here. And then your typical recommended reading, additional resources. There's still tons of really great additional resources. This is always really, I think, good to point out in a workshop because this is super helpful for teachers when they're leading one of these lessons. I always struggle with this toolbar at the top of my screen. There we go. Okay, so you've got every single activity listed there. And then at the bottom, you've got a lot of great additional resources. So, Matt pointed some of these things out in his hike, like planning investigation. Here's like the detailed appendix, but also some like student pages to go along with this. So students can dive really into that. Information on making a scientific argument, assessment rubric, all of the different career corners that are listed, those kind of pop-out boxes, as well as the forest facts that are listed in the activities. There's a cool STEM skills self-assessment for those 10 different STEM skills that are listed in the guide. You could always give this at the beginning of the school year and then do it again at the end of the school year and see how students have changed over time. Matt talked about the units of instruction. So this gives you like very detailed units of instruction for all of these different topics. So if we were to go to climate change, then that has the guiding questions, connecting concepts, scope and sequence, storyline, all of that. So there's a detailed unit of instruction for all of the topics that are listed here. Go away tab, sorry. I wish this thing would just stop popping up because it won't let me click my tabs. Let me see if I can make this smaller. Come on, there we go. Can y'all still see this okay? Can you see that okay, Matt? Okay, and then that gets rid of my problem.
Yeah, it seems okay.
Okay, all right, good. And then let's see, so I'll show you this really quick too, the Ngss Correlations. This is a very, very detailed document that breaks down every single activity. So Matt kind of showed you this quickly, but you know, for a tree's life, so the very first activity, it shows you the practices, the concepts, the science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, cross-cutting concepts, and then, and I guess it looks like a one-pager for each activity. So that's all included right here. So super helpful, and like Matt said, our new science standards are aligned with NGSS, so it's really perfect timing with the new guide and the new science standards. So this will be helpful in itself, but of course it's always great to share our correlations to our state correlations. And then a few other great things to look at, and like Matt mentioned, the glossary is not in the guide, it's online. State correlations are actually connected right here. So this takes you over, and if you click on South Carolina, that's going to take you to our page. We still have our old pre-K through 8 correlations here, so we still have teachers probably using that guide, but here is our new K-8 Explore Your Environment. So again, these are the science standards, but we'll get all of the other ELA, math, social studies posted here too. So this is always really important, especially to share at in-service educator workshops. So I think that's the majority of course, recommended reading, all of that. So there's really a lot of information online to go along with this activity guide. So please share this in your workshops and check it out yourself. Lots of information there. And then let me close some of these tabs. And then what I want to share with you next is our new South Carolina Facilitators page. So maybe Matt could share this link in the chat. I can't easily pull up the chat now, but this year we decided to join forces with Project Wet and Project Wild and just put all of our resources and paperwork and everything needed to lead a workshop online on a website. You know, before we would give out flash drives or printed notebooks, but our resources like PowerPoints and agendas and requirements are always changing. So we decided to create this Google site. And so if you have been through a triple educator workshop, like I see Thea and Michelle here, you also have resources to all the other projects too. But so what you'll do is you'll click on our PLT page and then scroll down, and I'm just going to kind of quickly walk you through all of this information. Again, I want you to dive into it deeper on your own. Matt's going to go through the Facilitator Handbook thoroughly and kind of update you on some of the new changes, but it is also listed on this website. So he kind of really condensed that down, so it's a lot easier to process now. It's not a super, super long handbook. But so I'm going to walk you through this. The first thing we have listed is the curriculum resources. So this is where you'll find everything you need to lead the workshop. So hikes through the guides, PowerPoints, sample agendas, other additional resources. I think I just saw Lisa's comment pop up that she lost everybody, low bandwidth. Maybe if everybody turns their video back off again, sometimes that will help when we're sharing our screen and everything. Okay, thank you guys. So if you click on this link, this is going to take you to our curriculum resources, and this takes you to our Google Drive page. So everything is listed on a Google Drive page. So it should be fairly easy to download and save, even to your own drive. So this is broken down by our main curricula. So our E-units are all within here, early childhood, new K-8 guide, and then the secondary popular guides that we have. So I'm going to click on K-8, but all of these are pretty consistent. So they're all organized in this way where we have our hikes through the guides, we have other resources, we've got PowerPoints, and then sample agendas. So I actually created a new hikes through the guide for this new K-8 guide. So if you click on that, you'll see there's a questionnaire at the top. Sometimes Google Docs are formatting's funny, but when you download it, it should look normal. But this has the answers to go along with it. So this is always fun to do in a workshop. If you want like some prizes and you're able to come pick them up from us, we always have little guides or like little early childhood books and smoky swag and stuff like that, koozies we can give out for prizes for the hike through the guide, and then kind of pick and choose some of these questions to do like a relay race with participants. It's always fun. There's even a Jeopardy game that's listed here if you have time and really want to go into that. That's a lot of fun. So we've got PowerPoints here too. And the PowerPoint that Matt shared today is right here, South Carolina PLT Introduction to Explore Your Environment. He kind of condensed that down from National PLT's PowerPoint, so you could look at both of those, but if you have any questions or want to look at a slide that he had, that's listed here. And then we have a suggested virtual PowerPoint. So for most of the curriculum, we have a virtual agenda and a virtual PowerPoint because we really jumped into virtual this past year. We wanted you guys to have those resources too. I have noticed some changes I need to go in and do on some of our PowerPoints to make sure they're all up to date and all similar. So I need to go in and update those, but just know we're always going to have the most up-to-date resources on this website. So we can easily go in and edit it anytime. So if you're getting ready to lead a workshop, definitely check this first. Our PowerPoints that we have listed here are PDFs. We did that just to save space. But if you want the PowerPoint version and you want to edit it or do anything to it, we'd love for you to do that. Just email us and we'll send that to you. Again, we just did that to save space. So please contact us if you would like those PowerPoints. We've got sample agendas for a variety of workshops. So like some of them, like we did our teacher's tour this summer, we did a combo workshop with the new Green Jobs Guide. So we've got a sample agenda there. We've got sample agendas for virtual trainings. So we have one that's geared towards K through 5, and then we have one that's geared through 6 through 8 teachers. And then here is that K-8 Educators Toolkit, where we pulled that worksheet from earlier. If I click on this, this is what PLT National created as like a new agenda that you can use for educator workshops. It is very, very detailed. It gives you lots of great background information. It really breaks down who you're reaching, the materials needed, any handouts that are given out, you know, the time that it takes. It's really like key talking points. It gives you a step-by-step how to lead these activities. And this is really kind of like a suggestion. So we're not saying that you have to take this agenda and adapt every aspect of it. You might just kind of pick and choose some things from it. Like here is the in the door activity that we kind of worked through together. but this really breaks it down on how to lead that for you. It has a link to that worksheet. So at the end of this, you'll see there's tons of worksheets that are incorporated into this. Like one of my favorite things is like a lesson planning document. This is something we wanted to develop for our state, and PLT National just developed for us. So Matt's going to work through another one of these, but make sure you check out these worksheets because they're really helpful and a great thing to incorporate into your workshops. So this is kind of just an outline of their suggested agenda, and again, like you can pick and choose parts of this. You might just adapt this whole new agenda. You might be very comfortable with a format you've been using for years. That's okay. You know, this is just here as a great additional resource. So let us know if you have any questions about that. Again, that's the K-8 Educators Toolkit. Okay, again, all of the curriculum, it's all organized like that, where it's hikes, other resources, PowerPoints, sample agendas. So definitely check that out before you lead a workshop and get your most up-to-date resources. Okay, so next we have on our website is the PD event paperwork. So this is all of the paperwork you need to lead a workshop. So these are all fillable PDFs. So if you download them with Adobe Acrobat, they're easy to complete. Just as a reminder, if you would like to lead or host a workshop, the first thing you need to do is to send us a PD event proposal form. So this, just basically all you need to know is what date and time, where you're going to hold your workshop, who you're kind of reaching. And this really puts it on our radar and officially on our calendar so that we can start helping you guys get together a flyer if you need it, get other facilitators, and really help you start planning for it. So that's the very first step, and you can find this on the website. And then when you're at your workshop leading it, if you're going to take pictures, we always encourage you to hand out this photo and video release form. I know Matt and I, with most of our workshops, we take pictures and then post it on Facebook. So this just kind of assures that we can do that. Sometimes we'll end up using those photos in our annual reports or other publications, monthly bulletins. So it's always good to have this signed. So if you would like to post pictures on our Facebook page too, just let us know and we can help you guys share that. And then at the end of the workshop, there's several things you need to hand out. So the participant information form, we still have our paper form, but what we are doing now is we're actually using a Microsoft form document to keep up with this. Historically, National PLT kept up with all of this data for us, but they are no longer doing it. So what would be really helpful if you guys could now start having participants put their own information in. So we created this sheet that if you're doing an in-person workshop, you can just print it off and they can scan this and it will take them to the website, or they can just manually enter this URL and then they'll type in all of that information themselves. And that's really helpful. That'll save us time. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you still can use the paper copy and then we'll enter that information for you. And then you have an evaluation that every participant should complete too. And then don't forget to give your participants each a certificate of completion. So you can fill these out online, print them off, and then make sure to sign it at the facilitator line. And then finally, you'll have paperwork as facilitators to complete. Every time you lead a workshop, whether you spent any money or not, we want you to complete this expense form because we keep up with your in-kind hours. So just put down all the time that you spent planning for and leading your workshop, and that helps us to continue to get grants and donations for our program. If you're the lead facilitator, you're going to do this cover sheet, and then any of the co-facilitators will do this co-facilitator form. We've also got a handout here for our EE centers if you want to share that, especially if you're at an EE center leading a workshop. And then we even created a thank you card. So we have some of these printed off, but if you want to print one yourself and maybe send it to a host site or someone that helped you with the workshop, feel free to use that yourself. So lots of great information on our PD paperwork there. Again, we'll always make sure you have the most up-to-date resources. And then next you'll see resources for outreach and leading PD events. So this is kind of information to help you plan and get ready for these workshops. So we've got them organized where if you lead a blended workshop, it's here, or virtual. Blended, I think Matt and I end up doing a lot of these, but it's basically like if part of it is online and part of it is in person. So we have some online assignments that they can do, and an answer key here. We've got a sample agenda and some other resources. Whereas our virtual, you know, if you're going to lead a virtual training, we've got like a suggested email that you can send before the workshop to help them prepare and be ready, a suggested email to follow up, and details on how to really access their codes and their content online. You'll walk through this with them, but I think it's always helpful for them to have this if they're entering their code later on. And then here's some just kind of general stuff that I think is helpful when planning a workshop. So like things to remember when planning a workshop, you know, which curriculum requires how many hours and how many activities and this and that is all listed out here. And then how to conduct a PLT activity, tips on that, and even debrief activity questions that you can cover. We've got our general what is PLT PowerPoint here, so can adapt that and use it for whichever workshop. And then sample icebreakers, all kinds of other great content in here. And then last but not least, if you go back to our page, you'll see we have a Plt Facilitator Roster. So Matt and I worked on trying to narrow this down some. We probably could narrow it down even more. But this is just going to list out anyone who might be in your same county that could potentially help you out with the workshop. So we didn't want to list everybody's contact information here, but if you're planning to lead a workshop and you want to try to find someone near you to help out, just look here and you can find them based on county, and then contact Matt or I and we can give you their contact information so you can reach out directly to them or we can help you reach out. But that kind of just gives you an idea of who's around and who can help you. So yeah, so all of this is organized on our facilitator page, takes you to our Google Drive. It'll be the most up-to-date resources, but if you have any questions about that or need the PowerPoints, things like that, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll send that directly to you. Does anybody have any questions for me about the websites, the 2 websites that I just showed you?
No, there were a few other questions I kind of answered in the chat about the electronic participant information form.
Okay.
Yeah, that link, you can even just scan it on your smartphone. Your participants can do it on their smartphone. So that's we're trying to make this as easy as possible. So again, if you just want to use the paper form, that's perfectly fine to have them fill that out and scan those in or mail them to us, however you want to do it.
Yeah, newer smartphones, most of the time, if you just open your camera app and you hold it up to the QR code, it will just automatically pull up the website. So, so far it's worked pretty good. We've only used it, you know, since the summer, and it seemed to work pretty well. Another way I've done it for virtual workshops is I created a slide of it and just had it while I was doing the PowerPoint. I just had them stop, complete it, and then move on to the next part. So I just made sure everybody did it then. So different ways of doing it. Okay, well, I will turn it back over to Matt to go into our next activity.
Yeah, and the other question, another one, so the participant information form right now is a Microsoft or Outlook form. However, the survey is not. That isn't something we've yet made electronic, but that's a good idea. We could put that on the list of things that we could also do electronically. We're also going to be slowly going over to the Forestry Association. That's our fiscal agent. That's our state sponsor. They're working on the system to do online registration for open to the public Project Learning Tree PD events. So that will be coming as well. So excited about that. We're moving into the 21st century here, slowly. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to now jump into another activity here. So I emailed out to everybody the student pages for Backyard Safari, which is on page 29 of your guide. So if everybody can pull that out and go ahead and turn on your video so we can see your smiling faces. And we're going to do another activity. So the student pages, there were two of them. One was for the K-2 grade band with the crayon, and then the other one was the colored pencil, and that was the variation for grade bands 3 to 5. So yeah, so you might recognize this activity, Backyard Safari, also called, schoolyard safari. Also very, very similar to field, forest, and stream. Maybe some of you are familiar with that activity. It's a 3 to 5, but this is the K-2 activity here. So let me share my screen here. Let me share my presentation. Okay, all right. Let me advance, hopefully. It's this weird thing where it's like frozen. There we go. All right. So yeah, so Backyard Safari. All right. So everybody, so go ahead, feel free, unmute yourselves. And so this is now, everybody can unmute yourself and answer. So when you hear the word safari, what do you envision in your mind?
Africa.
Africa.
Yeah. The hat.
Desert. All the animals.
Lions. Tigers.
Bears.
Oh my. Elephants.
I just had to say that. Definitely. Yeah, so yeah, most people think going through the Amazon jungle or African safari, and those are great. And what kinds of things might you see on a safari? So we've mentioned some of those very exotic animals. So, but so does a safari though? Does it need to be in a faraway place, or could you just have one in your very own backyard? Of course, yeah, you could go in a safari in your very own backyard. In fact, I can guarantee you that most kids these days know less about the animals and plants that are in their very own backyard than all the shows that are on Netflix right now. They can probably name more shows on Netflix than they can the different types of plants and animals in their very own backyard. So, so everybody so what are some of the types of animals and plants that you have seen in your own backyard or even in your house?
Spiders. Squirrels. Snakes. Cat.
Birds.
Dogs.
Cockroach.
Yeah. Really polies.
Yeah.
Dragonfly.
Very good. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there's wildlife everywhere. What's great about this activity, you can just do it in any environment, indoors or outdoors. So where are some good places where you might find these animals, and what senses might you use to find these animals?
Bird feeder and
Nice.
your vision.
Hearing.
Ears.
Hearing.
I listen for birds.
I see those spiders at my window and yell. So yelling, what's that?
You can even use your sense of smell. Some animals definitely have a sense of smell. Think of a skunk or a cherry millipede, right?
Even trees after the rain.
Yeah.
Wait, a cherry millipede?
Yeah, cherry
Cherry
millipede.
millipedes.
Yeah, so it's those black millipedes that have the red, so black segments that are red in between. If you take them and you kind of pick them up and smell them, maybe give them a little shake, they'll release a little tiny bit of cyanide, and it smells like the cherry cordials.
The cherry almond.
It's almond extract. Yeah, almond extract.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Hang on, I'm writing this down. That's a party trick.
You pick it up and you shake it like that, and then you smell your hands.
That's not cruel though, right? Like if I shake the millipede, it's not like animal cruelty.
Yeah, it might scare them a little bit. Just don't shake them too hard.
Don't go crazy shaking it. Just a little will do.
All right.
But I tell you what, when we take kids out in the forest back in the good old days, yeah, the cherry millipede was a great party trick. That and like a click beetle or things like that.
Daddy long legs too. If you turn them over and smell the belly, it smells like vanilla.
Just snatch a stink bug up these days.
Really?
You know?
Okay,
Yeah, daddy long
never
legs are a good one. Yep.
I will have to do that.
Just be careful you don't pull their legs off.
Yeah. Well, in backyard safaris, as you can see the objectives there on the left. So students will identify signs of animals living in an outdoor site, describe how this habitat meets the needs of the animals living there. So then you'd start kind of talking about, what are the components of a habitat? And I think we all know that here, food, water, shelter, and space. So with your student page, okay, so everybody, if you have your student page, and what's cool about these is they can be downloaded and they can be used electronically, or if you printed it out. What I want you to do with either one of the student pages, so either the one on the left, kindergarten to 2, or the one on the right, 3 to 5, what I want you to do is observe the pictures that I'm going to show you in just a second. And I want you to look for signs of wildlife, because we don't always see the animal that we're when we go out into the woods, right? Or in our house, we know that they're there, but we might not actually see them. And sure, if you've ever led a group of second graders through the forest, they're always like, where are all the animals? And it's like, well, you've scared them all away with all your noise. But we can see signs of them. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at these 4 pictures, and then I want you to use your student page there and fill it out. So like the one on the left is pretty simple, the animal or sign, and then how many. And then also think about, what do you think, is that animal, what habitat components are they obtaining in that picture? Is it food, water, shelter, or space, or a combination of the 4? The 3 to 5 page is a little bit more complex, and so you write down what you saw, where did you see it, or what sign, and then how might that animal get the food, water, and shelter it needs to live there. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? All right, so I'm going to show you 4 pictures right now, and I want you to see if you can identify the animal that is there. Keeps on freezing up. There we go. All right, so what do we have? And I'll give you maybe a few minutes here. And I will give you a clue. Everything in these pictures is local to our state.
Yes. I have some things.
Okay. Let's see, how much more time do people need here? Okay.
Can we use the internet?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Can we Google search it?
No, that'd be cheating. No cheating. But I'm going to show you the answers here in just a second here.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll get started here. All right, so let's look. So we'll start with the first one. So does anybody have an idea of what sign of animal the upper left-hand corner might be?
Tortoise burrow.
It is a tortoise burrow. Yeah, the gopher tortoise.
Gopher.
That is correct. And as you can see, yes, it's getting its shelter there in that burrow. So that's a kind of a pretty rare tortoise, and so and I'll show you a picture of it there in the next slide. All right, and then how about the one in the upper right-hand corner?
Squirrel nest.
A squirrel?
Gray squirrel nest.
Gray squirrel nest.
Yeah, gray squirrel nest, correct. Yeah, I've heard that they're called dray is the technical term for a
They're called what?
squirrel nest. A dray.
A dray. Like
I
doctor.
smell that.
Got it.
It's DRE. But somebody Google that and verify that for me. So that's a dray, yep. And then how about the lower left hand?
Caterpillar.
Caterpillar.
10 caterpillars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty close. It's
Fall
not a tent
webworm.
caterpillar. There we go. Fall
Webworm.
webworm. Yeah, so it's on a pecan tree right there. So it's getting its shelter, and it's also getting its food resources.
What was that one?
The fall webworm. I'm going to
Okay.
show a picture of it here in just a second. And then how about the lower right-hand corner?
The bellied sucker.
That's
There we go. Yeah, yellow-bellied sapsucker. So I'll show you the pictures now. There we go. So yeah, so your yellow-bellied sapsucker right there. So it's getting the habitat component it would be getting would be, the food. So it does lick the sap, that's coming out. It also can pick off the bugs that might get attached to the sap as well. So yeah, so your fall webworm there, the larva there, I can remember my dad taking and burning those like with a torch and burning those out of the trees when I was a kid. And now I've learned that that's actually not really what you want to do with your pecan trees is burn those out. It hurts the tree more than it helps it. And then you got your gray squirrels right there, and then your gopher tortoise. And it's a really cool species that there's a lot of other animals that also use their burrows, including the indigo snake, for shelter as well. So one of those kind of like keystone species that are in the sandhills region. And I'll do a plug here. If you're not a member of the EEASC, you should really join. Next year's conference is planned to be in person in June at the Savannah River Ecology Lab. And they have a really cool gopher tortoise enclosure there that you should check out if you haven't ever seen. So this activity here, I'll stop sharing. Okay, so this activity is you can see if you want to flip in your book to the activity, it starts on page 29 in your book, and so it's basically you introduce is what we did. You kind of engage them into the learning with the discussion we had about the safari. And then you actually take the students outside on a safari. You could also do this indoors as well. And then the assessment, if you flip over to page 32, they have ideas there for the assessment. Draw a picture or diagram, write a story or diorama showing an animal that lives in the yard or other site or how it gets its food or water, and then an inventory. And then you can see all those ideas there for enrichment. So just kind of a fun activity. As you can see, this activity is not that different than the old activity, I think, but I think it is a nice improvement, a nice revision right there. Any questions or comments about the PLT activities that Beth and I went over? No? Okay, all right. Well, what I'm going to share with you now, one of the last things we're going to share, like business, that I want to go over, is the new handbook. So the old handbook was super thick. I know a lot of you have that handbook, including myself, with all that paper. And with technology now, a lot of those resources, the sample agendas, the sample flyers, like a lot of that information is now on our Google webpage. And so the actual handbook, like the meat of the handbook, I was able to whittle that down to just 25 pages. So a lot less intimidating than the old one. All right, can everybody see the handbook here? All right. So
we see your other document.
Oh, you see the other
We're able
one.
just to close that other one out. The
Okay.
K to 8 educator.
Thanks, Beth. WebEx is just a little clunky. Okay. Let me close that. All right, let me try again. All right, how does that look?
Yeah, that's better.
It's better. Okay.
I don't know if you're able.
Right.
There you go. If you make it bigger, that helps.
Make it a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. So the new facilitator handbook here. I'm not going to read through this whole thing in all 25 pages and everything, but I do just kind of want to point out some references in it that you might find useful when you are planning your next PD event. So the start of it just has some background history about the programs. You know, when you're doing your what is PLT introduction, you know, some of that history will be right here at the beginning. And then just, you know, you can kind of see who is on our steering committee right now. So we have lots of talent in our steering committee, as well as all of our facilitators. Then there's information there, and it has a link there to the Google site, to all of our resources that are online. All right, so after that, it gets into, so here's our table of contents. So a lot simpler and a lot shorter than what we had before. So just 3 sections, just welcome introduction, what is a PLT PD event, and then planning and conducting a PLT PD event right there. So is what you've kind of heard, so National PLT has come out with a lot of resources that coordinators and facilitators can use. It's not mandatory that we implement everything that National comes out with. However, they do have a lot of good stuff that's out there. So what I tried to do in our new state facilitator handbook is hyperlink the resources for the National Facilitator Handbook and kind of embed those hyperlinks in with our state Facilitator Handbook. So the National Handbook is called the Next Gen Handbook. So anytime you see a hyperlink to the Next Gen, that it kind of corresponds with what we have in our state handbook right here. You know, I tried to kind of lay it out in a similar fashion. So the first section is, you know, about welcome and introductions. So your role as a PLT facilitator, that's the first part, you know, so you're there to guide their learning and how to use the activities with youth to teach them about the environment. The National PLT has a lot of different materials that are out there, but our South Carolina program, we don't necessarily lead activity PD events in all of the resources that National has. They've come out with a lot of stuff. If you look on shop.plt.org, like a lot of these like little mini collections of activities and things like that. But kind of our focus here with the South Carolina program is just to focus on the main activity guides that cover the most amount of grade bands that are, we think of best use of by our teachers. So you can see what, it's basically the early childhood, K to 8, e-units, and then these different secondary modules that, we kind of are doing a lot of PD events for. And they are talking about developing a new secondary module that would maybe be kind of like the K to 8 guide, where it would have more activities to it. So that, I think that's going to be coming maybe in the next, few years. So just kind of your information there about the correlations, which are online that Beth showed to you earlier. And so, there's a lot of different correlations to, formal and informal education programs. And so here's the big part. So what is a PLT event, PD event? So here it has the information about what your event goals should be for each of your PLT PD events. And if you kind of keep on scrolling down, this is kind of, you're always wanting to tailor your PD event to your audience, right? And so the ADDIE model, maybe some of you have heard of the ADDIE model before, but it's a way to kind of look at your audience and then design your PD around your audience. So the acronym stands for person and analysis, design and develop, implement, and then kind of go back and evaluate and assess how your PD event work to meet your objectives. So I would encourage you, to take a look at this. It's just a one-pager right here. Now this link here to what National has to the ADDIE model, it's much more in detail. But I tried to summarize it into just a one-pager right here about the ADDIE model. So I'd encourage you to, of course, I'm sure you all do that when you are planning your PD event, try and, meet the needs of your audience. All right, and then there's different possible formats. So again, it all depends on what your audience needs. If they need a full 6 hours and maybe split over 2 sessions, you have the time to do that, that's great. But if it's like a teacher in-service day for a school district and they can only give you a morning or an afternoon, then 3 hours is also okay as well. So there's lots of different formats. You can do virtual, you can do hybrid. We've got like a little homework assignment that you can assign them to kind of do to kind of get some more contact maybe before they attend the in-person session. So all of that sort of stuff is on the Facilitators webpage, as well as outlines for if you are doing a virtual event. We have developed outlines like instructions step by step on what you can do to lead a virtual PD event. So there's lots of different ways that you can do PD events, and so here's some ideas for different formats. All right, so this next section here is section 3, planning and conducting a PLT PD event. Here are all of the hyperlinks to the Next Gen Facilitator Handbook that has kind of more detailed information than what I have here in the state handbook. And it follows the ADDIE model, as you can see. But here's just, if you, want to, this is supposed to be a reference for you. So the next time, you're kind of getting ready to lead your PD event, you kind of look through this and see, okay, what do I need to do? So there's instructions on here on how to arrange it, the time requirements for the different types of events. Remember, 3 hours is the minimum. Fees, which, we only charge $20 as our flat fee, and that's only for like kind of open to the public PD events if you're just going to broadcast it far and wide. Co-facilitating, information on that. So we always encourage you to find somebody else to work with. It's always good to plan beforehand and know exactly who is doing what job before you go into the PD event. And then we have this nice PD event planning checklist. So if you follow this checklist, everything should be prepared for you to have success and then post-event as well. Information about number of participants, offering credit. As you know, all of our PD events count for South Carolina Department of Ed renewal credits, but this can also be incorporated into, you could get college credit if you wanted to go that route as well. Like on the teachers tour, teachers go on that and they get 3 hours of non-degree graduate credit. So there's some information on that as well. And also PLT also counts for SAF credits for foresters. Then there's information there on how to publicize your event, and we have links to resources for doing that on the webpage that we have. Planning your agenda. Okay, and I'll just kind of scroll through things here. So it's kind of like what should be in your agenda. So all sorts of information about that, the hike to the guide, leading the activities, and so on and so forth. Always have some time incorporated near the end of your PD event for time for planning. And we have a worksheet that is on the webpage that is for that you can assign, as well as, we're getting a little short on time here, but this one that Beth alluded to earlier, the one that I asked you to print out, is page 19 of the K-8 Facilitator Toolkit. It's called, the title of this is Features of a Typical PLT Lesson. So this right here could be a good assignment to give to, if you happen to have a split session where you have the students, say it's like college students, you have them for your first session where you kind of introduce PLT, and then they have to like go home and kind of dive into a PLT lesson and prepare to lead it at the next session, at the second session. This activity, this worksheet right here, kind of is like a good procedure that you can go through in order to kind of really dive into all of the components of that lesson, helps them prepare. So that kind of goes along there with their classroom planning. And then time there at the end for evaluation, feedback, and certificates. And then there's just other information about, planning for food and beverages. If you want to have that at your PD event, make sure to charge extra than the $20 to cover that cost. Health and safety is important. Always make sure you know where the AED and first aid kit is. And just other information there about, how to get ready for your PD event and leading it. And then finally, what to do when you're finished, because we do need to document all this stuff for National Project Learning Tree. So are there any questions? I know I kind of went through that really quick, but again, the Facilitator Handbook is just supposed to be just a reference. Don't expect anybody to read it cover to cover, but it's not too long now. It's only 25 pages. But any questions about the Facilitator Handbook?
I have a comment.
Okay. Sure, yeah.
So with regards to the workshop fees and snacks and stuff like that, just because of my position with local government, for anybody that's doing an informal program, any teachers that are doing a program, there are funds. Like when I do a program, I usually reach out to my recycling vendors and ask them for swag, ask them to cover the cost of lunches, to cover the cost of snacks, in most cases to cover the cost of books. I don't think I've ever done a workshop where I've actually charged the participants. So you guys that are informal or that are in-service teachers, call local government, call your recycling coordinator, your stormwater educator, anybody in that role, and we can figure out a way to get you sponsors. And if your government is a little less active than we are, call me and I will get you in touch with the right people within your local government. So yeah, we can do that.
Very good. Yeah. Removing that barrier of money is important, especially for early childhood. They're really strapped for time and money. So if you can get someone to sponsor lunch, that'd be great. Now, if you're just buying, say, snacks and coffee and like little things, Project Learning Tree South Carolina will reimburse you for those supplies. Just save your receipt and send that in with your in-kind reimbursement form. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment. I'm like in the triangle of South Carolina, butting into North Carolina. So like 2/3 of my radius is actually North Carolina from where I live. Should I see if I can also get certified in North Carolina so I can get funding if I do something over the line? Or am I just kind of stuck only doing South Carolina if I want to get the funding?
No, we're going to put up a wall right there in between our two states. No, we work with Renee Strnad and Chelsea York with Georgia PLT all the time. Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's physically hosted in our state, then work through me. But if it's physically hosted in North Carolina or Georgia, maybe work with that PLT coordinator. But we occasionally have people come over and cross the border. And that's okay. We don't get mad at each other for doing that.
I'm literally 5 minutes from the line, so.
Yeah. I got educator trained at Holmes Educational State Forest and at DuPont State in North Carolina myself. So, yeah. Well, thanks. Yes, thanks, Stephanie. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Matt, question for you.
Yeah.
I did a virtual training in August with some teachers. How long are we going to offer the virtual option? Will it just be through COVID, or is that going to be a permanent part of?
Permanent, yeah. So again, we're meeting our audience wherever they like. We're doing one with Columbia College this fall, and Stephanie's actually leading the virtual portion of it in October, and then we're going to follow up the next week with an in-person. So it's kind of a combo, and then they have a homework assignment. So their homework assignment in between the two sessions is to prepare to lead a PLT activity. So it's virtual, it's home, so we're really trying to be flexible. All right. Okay. Well, I think that's everything that I have. We also have we wanted to have some time for some round robin, some time for people to share any resources or any activities that they have coming up at their place of work. So want to kind of open that up to the
Matt,
table.
do you want to do
Sure.
maybe the online participant information form first? Then if
First,
anybody like
yeah.
Michelle has to check out of her hotel, she can dip out a little early. I know we went over a bit.
So, all right. So I just put it in the chat box there. That is the link to the online participant information form. And Beth, you know what? Do we have that form? Can you put the QR code up on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
And then actually people could also just take their smartphone and scan that QR code, and then you can also do it on your smartphone as well. So yeah, so maybe while people are kind of sharing what's going on during this kind of round robin time, you could also be kind of working on your participant information form. You'll notice that some of the questions are a little bit different. The form's not as long, but there are some demographic questions that are optional at the bottom. So that's something that we wanted to start collecting. It also helps us to know what demographics we're hitting and what we're not hitting in our state.
What about the city and state? Can we just put virtual?
I was just about to ask that.
Oh, city and state, yeah. I guess just put Columbia.
Okay,
it
so
is
I don't know if we have
virtual.
virtual
You can
as
just
an
put
option.
Columbia.
We need to add that.
All right. So let's just kind of go around and just kind of share. If you don't have anything to share, then just say, nothing to share. But we'll just start with Deanna. Do you have anything you'd like to share for the good of the group?
No, just some suggestions. With that virtual session, if you're looking at that list of people that could possibly be a co-facilitator, if you're doing a virtual option, your window is a little bit more open. because I actually partnered with someone down in the Low Country and I'm here in Columbia. So we were able to do that because we were doing a virtual session. And we purposely looked at some activities in the book that could be done virtually and kind of adapted those for a virtual setting. Some of them are a little easier than others to adapt to a virtual setting, but still have participation from the participants.
Yeah. Yeah. You did it with Sarah Beth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Beth, I think I owe you some paperwork.
Oh, yes. I think the co-facilitator forum, right? And the evaluation
Yes.
forum.
I forgot until you went over it today.
Okay. Thank you, Deanna. Stephanie, do you have anything you want to share with the group?
I don't have any resources currently, but I do know that when I was in college, we partnered with Project Learning Tree a lot, and I remember making them tree cookies. So college students or anyone who has the time who's becoming a forester in a natural resource setting, they could always do things like make tree cookies for you.
Yeah. And it's coming up to Christmas, so those Christmas tree lots will have those ends that they cut off. You could make contact with your local Christmas tree lot to get all those ends. Okay. Thank you. All right, Jess. Oh, can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was filling my thing out. What were we doing?
Oh, just kind of sharing if you have any educational outreach opportunities in your area that you, for environmental education, you want to let the group know about, or any needs for volunteers or anything?
I have, if nobody's noticed, I've been a little out the loop of the long story, but I'm getting back into stuff. So anything in the upstate area, I'm kind of retraining and getting my bearings back. So if anybody has anything, I would really like to start getting back into it. So if you're in the upstate, you know somebody that's looking for a co-facilitator or those sponsors, you know, something like that, just give me a holler. But aside from that, I'm not scheduling anything quite yet.
Gotcha. I know Spartanburg schools have always done a lot of PLT, PD with their teachers.
Yeah, and I'd like to get back into doing that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Shell, you just went, your video just went off. I guess I don't know if you have to go.
Nope, I was just going to try to get my finalized packing while I was listening. I'm pretty much ready to go. I have until 11:30, so I still have a couple minutes, and I just need to grab a little thing of ice for my to-go cooler. Actually, right now I don't have anything going on related to this. I may be doing some stuff with Lancaster County School District. They've showed some interest when we've had them on in the Lindsay Pettis Greenway. So that might be one that will probably be coming up. And I'm not sure if I'll need a co-facilitator or not. So once I dig a little more, that might be an option. And do you have anybody with you for the conference you talked about, Beth?
Oh, the conference in the springtime, middle school educators.
So I think it was like March or something.
Yes, I think I have someone signed up. I think she can only come one day.
Okay.
So I'll have to follow up with you. I think it's like the Saturday or something. I might need help still.
I may be able to help with that one.
Okay.
Something like that.
Check on that.
Okay.
Yeah, Sarah Beth had offered, I think, maybe to help Friday, but couldn't help Saturday. And Saturday's the long day, so I think I need help with that. But I'll follow up with you.
Let's say follow up with me. I'm not as I'll facilitate when needed on certain things, but I'm not as active in facilitating with my new role at this time. But would love to do some of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was more we needed help with the exhibit table.
I thought that one.
So Holly Rose DeVault, she's going to be there at the it's a middle school teachers conference. She's already going, so she said she could help at the table.
Oh, okay.
As well.
Well, if you need me, give a holler.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
I'm still listening.
All right, Cynthia.
Well, right now I'm not doing a whole lot of EE, but I am helping facilitate at the Museum of York County for their upcoming center one that they're doing on October 4th. So I'm going to co-facilitate that. And then as far as anything else, like Michelle said, I'm in the York County area. So those of you that are in Fort Mill or Lancaster or anywhere around the York County area, I'd be happy to co-facilitate. So just let me know.
Thank you. All right.
And if you or Beth need help, let me know, because I looked at your list and I was still in Missouri, so I couldn't commit, but now I'm back home. I'm open to driving to Columbia. So let me know.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Dawn, you jumped up. We'll jump up to you now.
I don't have any resources to add, but if you are looking for extra hands or somebody to help do the activities, reach out to your 4-H agent. There's a 4-H agent in every county, and some of them have degrees in natural resources or biology, and they'd be a really big asset to whatever program you're doing.
Dawn, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Will you co-facilitate with Beth and I and do a Pltpd event for all the extension agents across the state at your next conference, annual meeting?
In November?
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while.
Absolutely.
All right. Nothing like some peer pressure. Oh, sorry. All right, let's see. Dodie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be doing some more grab and goes at the library involving PLT. It'll probably be the spring for that. We're not doing any in-person programming, so right now I did PLT did post stuff about Bat Week, so we're going to try to use some of those free resources for Bat Week coming in October, and connect them to our learning and reading resources at the library. And we're starting Theater Watch again in November with Cornell. So we're doing a lot of EE involving the gardens and outdoors. So hopefully I can get some library staff interested in doing some training in the spring.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're in the same boat. Our hands are tied. Really hard to do in-person stuff right now. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Kelly, do you have anything for the group?
We don't have anything specific planned right now, but we've been talking for about a year with our newer faculty member in elementary education. And I think this spring we'll actually start incorporating PLT as part of their science methods courses. And that's elementary and early childhood at Winthrop. So that'll be about 100 people. But the faculty member is new. We hoped to do it last year. And with all the turmoil of different formats of classes and half the people there one day and half the other, it was just difficult to think about how to do that. But we're getting there.
Very good. I appreciate, yeah, having those college professors who are PLT facilitators is key to getting a lot of people trained. So, oh, and also there's a new early childhood guide coming out at the very end of this year, and a new guide that's going to be in print. And I am coordinating with SC Endeavors and this 4Cs and a D to do a special facilitator training next late spring for that new guide for a lot of those trainers for SC Endeavors. So I'm also probably going to open that up to our facilitators too to attend. It'll be a one-day facilitator training. Bye, Shell. Drive safe. So that'll be coming out in print next spring. All right. All right, Lisa.
Okay, I'm part of a group called the Palmetto Environmental Education Certification Peak, and we're offering trainings for formal and non-formal educators. You can get a certification. It's a statewide certification program, and it's a 2-year program with 4 face-to-face meetings, although this year it was mostly virtual. Cynthia, is a graduate of the program. It's fairly new, and our next cohort will be in 2022. So we're finishing up this year with the 2-year program, but we would love to have people apply and do the PEAK program. PLT, this is where the connection comes in. PLT is one of the electives that people in the program can take to get credits. There's a certain number of environmental hours that they have to get, and PLT training counts for that.
Yeah. Jess, question?
Yeah, that training is not retroactive, is it? So if I join the next cohort, I can't count like.
there are some, and I think maybe within the past 5 years, you can use some of your training, kind of can get grandfathered in.
Okay, because I'm North Carolina certified. I'd like to, become South Carolina.
Exactly. We modeled a lot of our stuff on the North Carolina program. It was a nice.
I'll be
yeah,
in touch with you
definitely.
about that.
I put the website in the chat bar.
I saw it. I wrote it down. Thank you.
Cool. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Let's see. Liz, do you have anything for the group?
Not that I know of, but I am recently retired, and if anybody wants a Forester on their co-host, call me or text me or to contact Matt, and Matt can contact me.
Yep, that's my job, is to put facilitators together. I can help that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it has to be a virtual because I'm handicapped, so.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And
Thank you.
tons of I love having as many Foresters as we can to share that knowledge too with the teachers. Foresters who like teaching.
Like Liz, I'm also, or I was a Forester. I don't have an education background, so that's what I usually did with Project Learning Tree, was more of the natural resource professional perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, in case anybody wants to partner with me.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, let's see. We'll jump down to Taylor. You're next. Anything that's going on at Lynch's River?
We're trying to get some things planned. Still in the planning stages of getting some workshops. What's the word? Planned.
PD events.
PD events.
Yeah.
Planned. Still trying to get those worked out.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Let us know how we can help.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. And Thea.
Yeah, so I do workshops every fall. So I did Project Learning Tree. I did a totally online version and actually asynchronous, and then an in-person version. And then we did a Project Wet workshop, and I'm finishing up with Project Wild right now. I did the first half yesterday, and we'll do the second half next week. So I have a group of 20 students who are looking for opportunities. As part of this class, they have to go out into the community to teach an environmental education lesson. And I have a lot of local contacts, and I didn't sound like a whole lot of you guys are super local, but if there are online events that our students could help you facilitate, so they're trained in all the curriculums now, I try to find as many opportunities for them so that they can choose things that they're excited about doing. So we do stuff here with 4-H and the botanical gardens and stuff and the schools, but if there are other things. And I'm happy to help facilitate, particularly with online trainings. I run an online master's degree here at Clemson, so I'm really comfortable with online teaching and the pedagogy involved with that.
Yeah, thank you, Thea. Yeah, she had definitely, what she created with her asynchronous training was awesome. So again, that's meeting our audience, meeting them where they are, right? So thanks for doing that, Thea. All right, and Renee, I think you're our last one.
I have kind of an unusual request for assistance. We have a small school here on Wadmalaw Island that we are partnering with a school I've been working with in a primary school in Senegal. And so we're going to be choosing a number of different activities for the students to participate in together separately. And we need to have some of these activities translated to French. So if there's anybody out there that would have that capacity, it would be incredibly helpful.
The USC Upstate, I know that's pretty far away, but they do have a language program where students will translate stuff into various languages. So I would reach out to them. I don't know that they do French, but I would be surprised if they didn't. Just thought, colleges.
Interesting. Yeah, so there are some of the student pages and a few of the new, some of the new guides are already in French. So SFI is based in Canada. And so, but there's like a United States branch and a Canadian branch, same thing for PLT now. And so they are going to be translating the entire K-8 guide, and basically all resources that will be coming out in the future will be in French and English. And there's also the Spanish translations for the student pages online as well. But that will be coming out eventually. I'm hoping we'll have a conference in Quebec or something like that. Would be really cool. All right. Well, and Renee, I'll find out what resources that they already have that are in French, and I'll send that to you.
Matt, I think we skipped over Norma if she's still on the call.
So there she is. She's black. Black screen. Norma?
She had said earlier she needed to leave, so maybe she's not there.
Okay. Oh yeah, I need to leave. Okay. All right. Well, everybody, again, we thank you so much for everything you do for the program. You are all now set to maintain your facilitator certification. We just ask that facilitators do, one thing to support the program at least every couple of years, either leading a PD event, helping at a conference, doing a teaser, doing something, serving on the steering committee, something to support the PLT program. But you all are all set. I think most of you have already completed that Welcome to PLT online course, but if you're having difficulties with that, give me a call and I can walk you through that process of getting onto that online course. So Beth, is there anything else I'm forgetting? And we have our facilitator rewards program, but I think y'all already know about that.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you on the next meetup that we're going to have. We started these virtual meetups is October 21st. So just a very short informal thing for about an hour. So hopefully to see some of you on October 21st. Okay. All right. Well, take care, everybody. Thanks again.
Bye, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
What a cutie, Deanna.
Thank you. She was getting fussy toward the end.
Bye. What's her name?
Zanaya with the X.
Zanaya.
Ooh, it's a pretty name. How old is she?
She'll be 1 next month on the 16th.
Oh, exciting. I have a 7-month-old.
Oh, yeah. How's your baby? You had a little boy, right?
Mm-hmm. He's doing good.
Yay. Awesome.
All
It's good to see you.
Well, good to see everybody.
Yeah, take care, y'all. All right. Bye.
Bye.